Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Achieving Unity Leadership System podcast. We are ready to be encouraging, inspiring, and including in another episode today, a dialogue where we can help people turn complexity into execution, chaos into connection, and our purposes into action. And that's the best part about it because a lot of people talk, we won't put those things into action. I am Mark Intrican, your host and founder of the Achieving Unity Leadership System, available at www.achievingunity.com, which is dedicated to all leaders, personally and professionally, in improving their lives through encouraging, inspiring, and including others. That's the EII. We must remember that unity is not a soft skill. It is truly a leadership discipline, something we all need to use as leaders because we depend on others in many, many ways. Today, this is another one of those conversations that will stay with you long after it is over. Today, I am honored to welcome Rachel Kristina to the Achieving Unity Leadership System podcast. Rachel is an intuitive healer, transformation guide, and creator of Intuitive Edge, helping individuals and families move from confusion to clarity through emotional awareness, self-trust, and inner alignment. Don't we all need that? Her work beautifully blends neuroscience, mindset, and intuitive intelligence to help us all reconnect with the wisdom already within us. This conversation will be about leadership, healing, parenting, relationships, and learn how to slow down enough to truly listen. You've heard me talk about before, listen in dialogue, in conversation. That's what Rachel's also going to talk to us today about truly listening. Her message will remind us that when we become more aligned within ourselves, we create stronger relationships, healthier families, and greater unity around us. As we listen to Rachel and navigate through division, frustration, and change, we're invited to see not just the challenges we could face, but the potential that exists when people are encouraged, inspired, and included in building a better future together, achieving unity. But first, before we delve into this insightful dialogue, let me briefly introduce my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, where it all began. As you can see on the first slide, this is about real conversations for leaders navigating division, frustration, and change. Leadership today sometimes feels harder than it should. Our disconnection seems to be growing. Frustrations that we have on a day-to-day basis seem to be draining the people, draining the teams, draining many of our families and what we do from day to day. Those good intentions that we have and that we think about are colliding with too many real world pressures. And we talk about real world there, we're talking about what is published, because sometimes I always think about reality focused. And some of those real world pressures may be because of someone else's intention. And we're going to learn more about that today. We talk about the intuition to get beyond those. Because as I say, unity is not a soft skill. It's not just being nice. It's not just helping a senior up on the curb, opening a door. It is a leadership strategy that we all use in working together. So what do we mean by achieving unity? Well, achieving unity includes that encouraging progress without enabling dysfunction. We want to be able to help people without anyone becoming dependent upon the other. We want those kind of dysfunctions in our day-to-day life. We want to be inspiring action without forcing agreement. We don't want people just sitting in the room going, without catching on, without understanding. We want action that inspires us to take it to that next level. And always including voices while maintaining accountability. We do want to include everyone. We want to be able to hear them, listen to them, but understand what can be accountable, because if we can't measure it, how can we improve it? We want to be building better businesses, better lives, and a better world, one conversation at a time. Again, I am your host, Mark Intrican. I am the founder of Reality Focused Dynamics and the Achieving Unity Leadership System. I work with leaders, teams, families, navigating conflict, change, and complexity, helping everyone move forward with clarity, unity, and sustainable actions. What I am is focused. What does focus stands for? Well, each of the words come out in an acronym that I created in a trademark. Focused is facilitating on clear, unified, sustainable execution and delivery. That's my phone number, 303 Focused. So let's talk more about it. What does that focused mean? Well, the F in focus, as we can see, stands for facilitate or facilitating. It's a tough conversation that builds trust. That's what we have to be in facilitating. Have you ever facilitated a meeting with your kids, with your spouse, at work, in your community? Sometimes it comes down to tough conversations that builds trust with one another. It comes to being on target, common ground, and shared purpose. That's what it's about. That common ground, so you're all working on the same page and working in the same direction. It's going to be C for clear, communication and agreements. Make sure that we're communicating, make sure that we're collaborating, all going in the same direction. We want to be unified. We want to make sure that our action come across any differences. Everyone's different in many ways. Our culture, our learning. There's so many things that may be different about us, but we still are the same, and we can still work together, unified. And then we're sustainable, results that last. This is not just a small short-term change. We're talking about long-term improvement, something that goes with us day to day, for the rest of our life, the rest of the time that we spend with our family, our friends, our community, and our employment. Execution, so important. That action I talked about, consistent, responsible action. We've got to be doing something to go forward, to grow forward. That's where that E in focus comes from. Because through that execution, what do we have? The D for delivery. Inspired growth about lasting change. All of us growing all the time, making those short-term changes to build for that long-term improvement. I would love for you to contact us. We want to help promote clear, unified, sustainable action starting now. Reach out to explore our coaching, our courses, our workshops, or speaking engagements to promote unity and leadership, a unified leadership. Again, achievingunity.com. Call me at 303 Focused. That's 303 362 8733. Achieving unity is the path that each of us takes to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. Get in contact with us. Let us know if you have any kind of troubles. And remember, protection is not a luxury. Speak to others through your coach. If you need legal assistance, need identity help, legal matters can be costly. Let's work together to bring them down to something that we can all afford. And upcoming conversations. Next week, we have another, because all of May is going to be about Mother's Day and moms. Mindy's going to be coming to talk with us next week about creating the harmonious home that we've always imagined. Sounds magical, doesn't it? But it's not. Come back next week on the 20th. Listen to Mindy. She talked to us more about that. The following week, Cynthia Klein, also talking about moms and mothers. May 27th, personal boundaries for moms. How many times has a mom or mother felt kind of stretched because of our culture, the way we brought things up from the past? Cynthia will come in here and tell us, show us how to set those boundaries and stop being stretched beyond reasonable. Then, at the 1st of June, we've got 4 sessions on men and dads and fathers. We start with Ronald Allen, Mom into Father, a Father's Asset, the wife. That's one of the things that I work on is the best parent is both parents in any relationship and grandparents. It's all about working together, unity. And that's what Ronald's going to come up talk to us about. And that's at the 1st of June. So please come back. Put us on your calendar each and every week. Would love to see you here. Want to contact me? There's my QR code. You have your camera ready? Go ahead. Take a picture of the QR code. Love to talk with you. View the site. Let me know what you think of the site. You have any questions? Always. You can call me at 303-FOCUS or go to markintrican.com or achievingunity.com. I am looking forward to communicating with you. And here's the important screen of the day with 2 QR codes. If you want to learn more about our guest today, Rachel Kristina, to learn more about her, there's that QR code on the left. To connect with Rachel, there's her Facebook and QR code on the right. There's her email down at the bottom. hello@rachel-christina.com. Get in contact with her. Again, take a picture of this slide. Keep it. Make sure that when you have troubles or questions, you can get back in touch with her. And now for the introduction of the person today that's going to tell us so much about intuition. We're excited to welcome Rachel Kristina, a trained intuitive, a healer, and a transformation guide who helps individuals and families move from confusion to clarity through deep emotional and inner alignment. We all need that so much. Drawing on her expertise in neuroscience, energy work, NLP, EFT, hypnotherapy, and advanced intuitive modalities. Rachel bridges science and spirituality to support meaningful personal transformation. Her work empowers people to break through those emotional blocks, reconnect with their inner truth, and cultivate greater self-awareness and creating more authentic leadership, stronger relationships, and deeper unity in everyday life. Would you please help me welcome Miss Rachel Kristina?
Thank you.
Hey, Rachel, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm excited that you're here. You
Me
have
too.
some new insights on things that we don't think about on a day-to-day basis. And it's interesting to find out more about what you do and how you do it. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into being so intuitive and be able to taking that, especially from a mom and a mother, those aspects so others can take that forward.
Yeah, so I will start by just saying I have 6 kids. So you learned a little bit about what I do as a business owner and as a healer and intuitive, but I have 6 children as well. And depending on how you speak in this day's world, we'll just call them all on the neurodivergent scale somewhere. So we call our house very neurospicy household here. Each one of us
Oh, that's
has a
great.
different set of needs, and it's been a real interesting journey as I've learned intuition and motherhood and putting those 2 things together. It has showed me a lot about what we think as a society and how we view those things, and then using intuition to really get into what do my children actually need, and then taking that also into my business and being able to forge paths that have never been walked before has been just the real sweet spot in why I got into this work. So.
That's interesting. But 6 children, how does your intuition help you? What are the age ranges that you're working with?
Yeah, so our oldest is 14, and then we've got 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and our youngest just turned 5.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's exciting to think about that. And Do you work with your children on learning what intuition is and how to use it, when it works, when it may not?
Yeah, so we do a lot of that by modeling because as children, we're sponges. We soak up what we see and not so much what we are told to think or do or practice. So for us, especially in our home, we model intuition and then let their curiosity lead them. So any training that actually comes in is if they're asking, Mom, how do I use intuition for this? Mom, can you teach me the science of intuition? That's a part that we didn't really cover in the introduction is I blend science and intuition together so that it's something that you can use all the time and that it's reliable. We think of intuition typically as like our gut response, our gut feeling. Every single one of us has that. We have our instinctual intuition that we're born with. And what I do is to help people to be able to tap into that and to even get more information using scientifically precise intuition so that you can access information that doesn't just reside in your instinct. So it's a very learned process. It's like learning a new language. And so the same way that you would teach a child a language is first you speak it, you model it, you speak it, you model it, you speak it, you model it, instead of trying to teach them all the intricacies of grammar and writing and all of those things that comes later as they express interest or they need to use it for different things. That's the same way that I would model intuition for my children.
I love that. And I love that you bring modeling into parenting because so many parents will say, do this, don't do that, but yet they themselves are doing it. And that is a problem with telling their children not to talk back, not to yell, not to do this, not to do that. But yet the parent themselves are doing that. So they're not modeling what they're saying, right?
Correct. We
So
all
if we
fall
can,
into that trap.
we do. But if we can work on it on a day-to-day basis, and some of the things I hope we get to talk about today are listening. That's one of the things that I speak on in my Lid, Wid, Bid, Rid, Kid platform about listening and dialogue. Break it down, write it down, break it down, review its dependencies, get it done. And that's about listening to what people say in dialogue. So we have a conversation and we're listening and we're understanding what we're doing so we can take it to that next level, but we write it down first. We will make sure that we have it documented to the point where people can refer back to it. People say, well, that sounds business-like. I wish more businesses used it. And I'm helping more businesses do that. But if we can take that into our homes as well, like you're talking about modeling, if we can help write those things down with our kids from the time they're just a few years old all the way through college and even afterwards, this is what I understood. This is what I'm doing. Could that also help in building an intuition?
Um, yes, being able to recognize how your intuition is uniquely speaking to you would be the first part. So I do encourage my students when we're talking intuition, we start with different forms that are outside of our body. Most of us have a love-hate relationship with our body, so it can be very hard to trust that gut instinct. And then also, as soon as you get your intuitive hit, your brain kicks on and it starts to logic and tell you all the reasons why you should, could, wouldn't do that thing. It starts to explain your intuition away. So really what we want to do is capture that first moment of intuition. And then I would use the writing to look at all of the different ways that your brain is trying to speak to you, because a lot of spiritual teachers will tell you to just focus on the intuition, just to focus on the spiritual aspect of these things. But if you don't actually bring the human along, your logic, your brain, use the neuroscience tools that we have, you will end up creating fear and panic in your body, which will cause you to distrust the intuition. So we really want to bridge that gap. And that's where I would say, yes, process your feelings, write those things out loud, write down what your intuitive hit was the second that you got it so that you can refer back to that every time that the brain tries to kick it out and say, go this way instead, do this instead, but you're scared. You can actually address those things without losing the intuitive piece that you got.
I like that. I love that you do that part where you're writing it down. It feels kind of like that emotional well-being can impact the entire family. Have you seen, especially this month, how mother's clarity can shift the energy of a household?
Yes. So I will say one of the very first places that I started with my intuitive journey was when I had my first two babies. They're only 12 months apart. And so we had two tiny babies in the house. And I remember my daughter, there was something going on with her, and I just knew that something was wrong. And we called the doctor, and the doctor said, there's nothing, you don't worry about it. And I was adamant that something was not okay. And I was going out of town for a writer's retreat. My daughter was 9 months old, and my husband was going to be solo parenting for the first time, I think, really at that time, where I was gone overnight. And I told him, I said, you have to take her. You have to take her to the urgent care. She needs to go. Something's wrong. They ended up doing some tests, and she did. She had a UTI, urinary tract infection, and it is very rare for a baby to get one of those. So the doctors had just kind of said, no, it's not a big deal. And to speak to that part of, I think that up for a lot of mothers, that intuitive mother instinct is where we first really start to recognize and fight for our intuition, because there's another person's life that we often care about more than our very own at stake or in the mix. And so we really will use our mother's intuition, but then we kind of put it on the back burner when it comes to ourself. And we will default to what everybody else wants and not take our own intuition for ourselves. And what happens is when you're doing that and when you're modeling that as a parent, this is how it gets into that emotional and clarity piece for the entire household. Is if I'm only willing to use my intuition when it impacts, somebody that I love and their safety, but I'm disregarding it every time that it impacts my reset, my emotional balance, my clarity, those things within myself, then I'm ignoring myself all the time. And that's what I'm actually modeling to my children. And so if I can model, mommy takes care of mommy first, mommy listens to my intuition, even when the world is telling me that I'm crazy, I'm not crazy, I'm just first. And I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to keep walking in what I know to be true. I'm going to make sure that I remain whole and undivided. And then that's the gift that I can give to every single person in this house, is a regulated mother who is being true to myself. And then I can amplify and have that go out to all the systems in our house. But if I am cut off and I am not taking care of myself and I'm depleted, then what's going to happen is that that's the version of parenting that they're going to get from me. And I'm going to have feelings like resentment and anger and feeling like I can't get away from my children, or I can't have a moment to have clarity. Because really, what I'm expecting to happen is that I will get my clarity when I get a break, instead of I'm going to give myself a break so I can come back to parenting with clarity.
I like what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. And I see a lot of parents that are in situations where, well, my family's different. Well, when we look at there's how many billions of families out there? Excuse me. And that we all have some of the similar feelings in what we do and what we learn. And that ability for us to learn enough to develop good intuitions is very important, because I think what I heard you say is sometimes instead of saying that I've got to take care of myself, too many times we fall into, well, what's Johnny going to think? Or what's Janie going to think? Or what's Susie going to think? What's Sammy going to think? And we don't go with our intuition too many times, right?
Yes. One of my favorite things that I teach is I kind of like to nerd out on looking up words and what they mean. And the word whole, or the word I'm sorry, let me start over. The word integrity comes from the word integer, which is a math term that means to remain whole. So it's an undivided number. So when we're talking about having integrity with ourselves, it means to remain whole. And what happens is what I see and witness in every single one of my clients, I see it in myself all the time, is what we do is, instead of going, will this decision make me feel more whole and undivided against myself? Like, am I approaching this, bringing all of my authentic pieces into the situation and allowing myself to be whole and present in this decision that I'm making? Instead, what we do is go, will it make this person think this about me? Will it upset this person? Will it make my mom mad? Will it disappoint my coworker will, whatever. And we then give away that piece of ourself to make somebody else happy. And anybody who's ever done this knows if there's somebody who's just gung ho on not being happy, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how much you compromise, that it's not going to reach the solution that you want it to. And instead, what you've done is you've made yourself less, hoping that it will make somebody more, and that the math never maths that way. It will never math that way. It doesn't matter how hard you try, it'll just make you exhausted.
Yes, it does. And that's some of the things that I work on too, comfort levels. And sometimes we fall to a comfort level. And I think you mentioned this earlier. Your intuition is saying one thing, but yet we fall back into what we've learned previously, and we may know better, but we don't want to step out. So how do we learn about the power and ability of our intuition without overstretching it?
That's a really good question. So that's where in the courses that I teach, we bring in a lot of neuroscience into that equation because you do want to regulate the human, the brain, and get it on board with the intuitive information. And then after, years of building trust with your intuition, now I can say, we made our entire intuitive move to move from Arizona to Colorado based off of intuition, and my entire family trusted that decision. And we got into our house unseen. We'd never been to Colorado Springs before. That was a huge intuitive decision after years of building up trust. If I had just tried to say, intuition's telling me to do this really big thing, and I don't get my human on board with it, then you are going to cause yourself to freak out and
It's
have a
true.
response. So we use neuroscience in that to where when intuition tells you to take the next right step, we go in and we neutralize the emotions that are coming up. We neutralize and deal with the logic that's presenting itself. We give intuition some structure by making actionable steps that are possible to do and feel good to have done. So anytime that you've got a big goal, anytime that you've got something that you're working towards, when you pull, intuition will help you to pull the most aligned and oftentimes the quickest way to get there. That does not mean that it's obstacle free. There are going to be things that come up to teach you how to be the person that can hold and sustain and keep that thing that you're going after. And so they're really not at war with each other, but we tend to think that they are. So when I'm teaching intuition, it's here's your intuitive information. And then let's use all the neuroscience to get the mind and the body and the emotions regulated and on board. And then we'll take bite-sized action pieces so that you can retrain that neural pathway and make it less uncomfortable and more sustainable over time.
Oh, I like that too. And you talk about the human side. Can you tell me more? My human, can you explain that a bit further, please?
Yeah. So when we're thinking intuition, we're actually able to access all the information that's inside light. So that's what scientists will often say if they were to ask to describe what they thought that God was, they would say it's the absolute most concentrated light, all-knowing thing that we could access. Light with it carries information, which is how our like MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, all those things, what they do is they illuminate the dark spots of the body. Where there's absence of light, we know that there's sickness and disease. So when we have these machines that are actually measuring light and the information that's in light, when we're talking about the kind of intuition that I teach, that is also what we're doing. So when you're doing it at the most intrinsic, instinctual, basic level, think somebody walks in the room, you kind of feel, some vibes, and you're like, I don't know that I want to stay in this room. I don't want to talk to this person. Or maybe the opposite happens where you're like, I just have to go meet that person. I need to talk to them. I don't know why. You're reading the information that's in the light all around them, that's in the light of the situation, that's in the light around you. And those fields are communicating. And they've studied this in different quantum physics. They've studied it in all the different theories that they're now able to kind of come up with that shows what we've been teaching this whole time. But so that's our intuitive. We're accessing information that we can't see. Human, when I say the human, we're talking about the part of us that likes to tangibly be able to touch something, that wants to tangibly see something. We want to be able to engage our five senses with it. We want it to seem solid. So when you're pulling intuitive information that you can't see and it's not based on logic, oftentimes our brain, our ego, our human self will go, wait, I don't like this. No, thank you. It's probably going to get me dead because I've never seen it before. I've never done it before. And that's what we have to get on board. We have to help that. It's not, when we say ego, we're not trying to, it's not the puffed up version. It's the version of our brain that is still operating in, this is going to get me hurt and this is not safe. And I need to prioritize survival instincts. And when you try to just tell that voice to be quiet or to not pay, like to shut it down, you're actually going to make it so much harder for yourself to listen to the intuition because that voice is just going to get louder and try to get your attention more because it is freaking out. And so when I say bring your human on board, what I'm saying is that we actually are going to use neuroscience. We're going to use the way that our brain works and operates and talks to us to help to calm that center. We're going to use our emotions, which are our check engine lights. They're telling us there's something here to pay attention to. This is either triggering you, it's elating you, it's showing you something that's important. And when we try to cut that off and just say, no, thank you, I'm not going to feel that right now, or that's not important, that's just going to get louder and it will cloud your intuitive information.
And a lot of that intuitive information, it sounds to me very similar to what we've learned. There will be some people that will be more intuitive because of their background, their education, their knowledge, places they've been. People who travel more are going to have some intuitive benefits that someone who doesn't travel much will have. So a lot of the intuitive, and you talk about neuroscience, the brain science, a lot of that comes with learning in our existing knowledge first, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to break that up into two things really
Please.
quick. So, what I would say is the things that you were just talking about, that's our wisdom. So, yes, you can grow your wisdom to infinite potential by the experiences, the things that you've learned, the obstacles that you've overcome. Our wisdom is what we teach out of. It's the thing that helps us to go, this is what I learned. This is how I learned it. Let me give you some of my wisdom and help you on your journey. When I'm talking intuition, we all have intuition and we all have the ability to have great intuition. That's more like learning how to speak a language, the language that the universe is talking to us in, the language that our energy is talking to us in. So it's more of a decoding than past experiences would dictate. If you can learn to speak the language of intuition, it doesn't necessarily matter for intuition's sake what your past and all of your wisdom is saying. Now, what I like to teach my clients is how to take both of those things because your wisdom, the things that you have come here to do and learn, that's your sweet spot. That's going to help you to serve the people that you came here to serve, to teach who you came here to teach, and to model out of that wisdom. Your intuition is the piece that we're going to take and say, I want to go somewhere that nobody's ever gone before, that's in a way that's completely authentic to me, who's never existed before the way that I exist. And so I want to pull at threads that currently don't exist yet. And there's nobody to model that for me. So I have to access information that has not been available up until this point. So intuition is going to help us get to where we've never been before. Wisdom is going to tell us where we've been. It's going to inform that. It's going to give us that knowledge. And it often will inform like our passions, the things that the places that we want to make an impact. Intuition is going to tell us how to get there in the most authentic, aligned way.
Most authentic and aligned way.
Yes, for
Right.
us
Hmm.
individually.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, say that again, please.
So for our own self individually. So
Individually.
intuition's not going to tell me how to do it Mark's way. It's going to tell me how to do it Rachel Christina's way. And that's why intuition is so key. A lot of wisdom will tell you the general way that somebody's done it before, the lessons that they've learned. And you can use that in your path to inform you what other people have learned and done and how they've done it. But if I want to do something completely aligned with how I'm built, I'm going to want intuition to inform me how to do it aligned for me.
That's interesting. So it seems like where your intuition is kind of guided you sometimes through uncertainties. And especially during possibly emotionally, you mentioned with your it was your daughter and being sick, but during emotionally demanding times, that's where your emotions and your intuition can reach out stronger, farther.
Yeah, so I would describe it as intensity. Like the more that you master your intuition, the more that I can now pull intuitive information without it having to get so loud. But I will take you back to a time when my son, we had we had done foster parenting and we had one of our children come to us. Well, three of our children came to us through foster care. And our first child who came to us through foster care, as we were in the process of, we had already adopted him, but he still had a lot of the state services and the things that come when you adopt a child out of foster care. And so we had all these therapies and these things for him, and he had different plans in place and we were working on him because he has a lot of special needs. And so we were doing all of these things and it just, our home life was in shambles. We were exhausted. He was having a lot of behaviors. It was impacting our other children. We were stressed to the max. It was one of the safety
Mm.
plans that we had in place at the time was that both adults had to be at home at all times, which impacted our finances. It impacted just all areas of our home. And we kept running into these roadblocks with the services where they would say, he's too young to diagnose this. He's too young for medication. He's too young to say this. This can't really be happening. We're not really sure what's going on here. And I just was about at my wit's end. And this was one of those opportunities where the obstacles were getting really loud because I wasn't listening to intuition. I was listening to the professionals because the professionals must know what's best. And they were telling me, and the state was also dictating a lot because we had other foster children in our home. So the state had their hands in the mix. And essentially, I was giving my power away to all of these people. But there was this voice inside that kept saying, your son needs connection and your son needs you to fight for him, but not this way. Not this way. And it took a while. And finally I just said, you know what? We're done. We're done with all the therapies. We're going to take the risks as they come. We ended up having to fight to still be able to adopt one of our other children because we were going against the safety plan. It was very a tumultuous time. And in that moment, I just kept hearing, these are the steps you need to take. This is what you need to try. Some of it seemed very unconventional. We ended up doing holding time with our child. He didn't want to attach, and we would go through hours and hours of holding time, and he would scream. And it was a very, again, just intense time for us.
Very
But
challenging.
yes. And what I learned in that moment, though, and afterwards was my intuition was exactly spot on the entire time. And as soon as we started to listen to it, things started to get better. Not overnight. We still have obstacles. There's still things that we have to do with this child. But it was really a lesson to me of, am I going to hand my power to everyone who says that they have a degree in this, they have a profession in this, they know what's best for my child, they know what's best for our home? Or am I going to do what my intuition is telling me is actually best for me and this child? And am I going to honor that and go against what everybody is telling me I should do and actually do what I know I'm supposed to do?
That's beautiful
So,
that you stood
yeah,
with that
it
because
was very
we
hard.
have there's a lot of intelligent people out there, and there are a lot of regulations that are good for certain reasons, but there are a lot of them that go beyond reasonableness. And that strength that I think you and your husband had to slow down and think about it and make the steps that you felt were important. I definitely look up to you. That I commend you for that. That was a beautiful step in your intuition and your learning that you
Yeah.
were able to take that to another level, right?
Yeah, so that was when it was shortly after that that I began studying intuition on a more scientific level. It was then when I got into the neuroscience and the different things, because what I realized is in the information that I was getting for my son intuitively, I realized that there was a lot of things in each and every system, each and every therapy has its place and time. So I'm not dismissing any of those things as useful or valuable because they do have usefulness and they do have value in them. But what I realized is that there was a lot of gaps where my son wasn't getting the services or what he actually needed, and we as a family weren't getting the support that we actually needed. And it was in finding those holes that helped me to realize that there was a whole section of people out in the world who needed a different kind of help that wasn't being given. And that's where I started my deep dive on universal laws and neuroscience and trauma-informed healing and rapid resolution therapy and, speaking to the brain. And then eventually that all also every single one of those things had a thread of intuition and self-love. And that's really what my business now and my model for my children, it boils down to those two things. If you can learn how to listen to your intuition, decode the language that the universe is actually speaking to you in, and if you can learn how to love and honor yourself as you are, as you were authentically made before the world told you who to be, if you can do those two things, then you're unstoppable and you can do what you actually came here to do that only you can do. And so it's those are the two keys to really everything.
And I like what you're saying because it goes straight with what I talk about. And that's achieving unity through the absolute power of encouraging, inspiring, and including others personally and professionally, as I think you do with your children. And I think that's what comes out in your intuition and with your child and the hugging time, the togetherness time,
Mhm.
encouraging, inspiring in that process and inclusion. So it help that child be part of the family even though there may be times they may not have felt that way, right?
Yeah. I think that there's a lot to be said when, again, going back to that, when I feel whole, I'm no longer trying to impose my wishes and beliefs and get validation from how you respond to me or how anybody else does. And so when we're really focusing on being whole and unified in our own self, then the things that you were talking about, encouraging and
Inspiring and including and
yes, other people will come from a place of I have met my needs, so now I can actually come here and be with you as you are, not as I need you to be. And that's huge in parenting, huge in parenting. How many times have we seen kids who resent their parents or who are upset because they were never allowed to break free and be their own version of themselves? They were trying to be the version of their parents 2.0, you know? And
exactly.
if you're going to look at modeling for them, I get to be my authentic self and I'm going to give myself what I need, then I no longer need you to give it to me,
Hmm?
which means that I can empower you and encourage you and inspire you to be exactly who God made you to be, exactly what you came here to do. And I think that that really, it's, you know, easier said than done, but it's is if we can keep going back and back and back to that and going, why am I pushing so hard for this? What am I thinking that this says about me? I use it a lot in behaviors. Like with that one child in particular, I had a lot of unearthing to do in my own self and my own trauma and my own stories because his rejection of me was triggering my abandonment wounds. It was triggering my things. So if I could go and heal that in me, then I no longer needed him to accept me. I didn't need to feel threatened by him in the ways that he was displaying his hurt and his behavior. Same thing when he does something that I would in the past think, oh, that's going to reflect very poorly on me as a mother because I can't control this child. Instead, it's now that's not my circus and it's not my monkey. It doesn't inform how I parent him. I'm doing the best that I can. However, anybody else feels about that is their problem, not mine, because my son is going to do exactly what he's here to do. And I don't need that to reflect on me in that way.
Interesting points that you're making. I thought about that because sometimes that impact, though, when how a child acts or behaves in a public location and their impact on other people's, how does your intuition help you in those cases?
So I'm actually going to switch that a little bit to intuition can help in those situations, but I'm going to take that to my self-love training in that one. So in that, it's really about what am I making this mean? Why do I feel responsible for everybody else that this is inconveniencing? Why am I taking that responsibility on myself? Why do I think he needs to stop screaming right now? Let's say that was the example. He's screaming in a store, right? And I'm flustered and I'm frustrated because I want to get out of there. I'm overstimulated. He's overstimulated and everybody else is watching us. I might have 15 different messages coming at me at that time, but almost always, it's just going to boil down to I don't like the way that I think that they're going to perceive me because I think it's going to say something bad about me that I actually do think about myself. I never think they're going to be thinking something about me that I've never thought about myself. I only am ever thinking they must be thinking the same thing that I'm thinking about myself. And I just don't want them to confirm it for me. So in that moment, it's a little bit harder to do. But let's say I've been practicing self-love and I've been getting the tools, the things that I teach over time. Then in that moment, when my child's screaming, I'm no longer thinking, how do I get this to stop so that people don't think the worst things about me that I think about myself? And I can instead go, what does my child need in this moment?
I
And
like that point
then
about, go ahead, please.
yeah, then I can pull in the intuition and I can go, what does my child need in this moment? Maybe they need me to lay down on the floor with them. If I was worried about looking like a fool, I would never do that. But if I'm whole in who I am, I'll lay down on that floor with them and just say, you ready to go? Or whatever they need. It
Mhm.
allows me to show up for them how they need me to show up, not how I'm trying to manage the situation because what I'm afraid of everybody else thinking about me, which is really what I think about myself somewhere.
I, I like that self-love that you talked about is good, but I'm also thinking about what about when I'm in a store or especially a restaurant and there's a child that is not behaving and is not necessarily against my standards, but when you go to a restaurant, you're not going there, I don't think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're not going there to listen to someone else yelling or a child screaming or someone being vulgar. You're going there to enjoy a dinner. But when someone else, even though there is that judgment that I don't like, when you go somewhere for a dinner or for a meal, you're not going there to listen to someone else's issues or someone else's raising. Intuition is good, but you're also having a situation there of learning, right? Because what
Yeah.
do you do if you don't take care of your child? What about if somebody else was not taking care of their child? How do you put yourself in that position?
So let's go with the restaurant one. And this might make the human a little testy. So I'll just caveat that here. So when we're talking about unity and we're talking about actually being in community with people and we're talking about seeing people as they are, if I'm at a restaurant because I wanted peace and I wanted somebody else to wait on me, maybe I'm not out in public. Maybe I'm having peace at my own house. And maybe I'm giving myself what I actually need in that moment. If I'm so triggered and I can't stop myself in that moment from going, you're ruining everything that I came out here for and that I need, that's a me problem. And I'm going to have to do that to myself. That child is just highlighting it for me. They're putting it on blast and they're saying, hey, you've got a problem that you're not dealing with. So that's one way to look at it is why am I so triggered by this? Why am I so offended by this? What's happening here? And then you can use intuition and go, is this actually my problem to step into? Because the most self-loving thing in that moment might actually be to leave the restaurant. It might actually be to remove yourself from the situation because maybe you're not there to handle it that day. But the other piece is if I'm okay and I'm regulated and I'm looking at this other situation that's going on, I'm going to look and go, what is the best way that I could be in community and give unity and support to this person? And maybe that's not engaging. Maybe it's talking to the other patrons and saying, hey, they just need a minute. Maybe it's actually asking the mom if you can help her get out the door. I've had children screaming before, and all I really wanted was somebody to hold the door open so I could walk out with my three children who were screaming. I wanted safety to get into the parking lot and get them in the car because in that moment I couldn't handle all of it. So I think it's really about asking if you can show up with kindness and be of actual service and help somebody to get out the door, to get to safety, to get to the situation wherever they need, great. If you can't, then please, please, please just take care of yourself and do what you need, which is to go regulate somewhere else.
And I
And
like
really
to,
that's what I'd say.
that's good. And I like the way you've talked about that achieving unity because we can help each other in the process. If somebody needs to help out the door, step up. The child may be screaming, there may be something else going wrong, but be able to help them, open the door, be able to help them up, talk to them if they feel like it's uh, available to share with someone else in that process. Because it seems like your work creates space for a lot of self-trust. Am I hearing that right?
Yep,
How important is that
pretty much
space
the
in,
entire thing.
yeah, even especially for women right now, and we all do it, male, female, mother, father, man, woman, and I get working more and more with families to get away from the gender issues in that process. But especially for people, and right now as we're looking and we're just, what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm sorry, impressed upon the work that the women and the mothers have done in the world today. And I do believe they did so much more in the past because the men didn't put into that process. But that important space for women that we need to acknowledge and appreciate for juggling multiple roles and doing more than one thing, and that appreciation for them. But do you notice in some of that, and some of what you work with, and maybe that intuition that helps people appreciate that space for the women who are juggling those multiple roles?
Yeah. So intuition is in the feminine, which does not mean that men don't have it. Everybody is both masculine and feminine. We all have both. When you're looking at traditional gender roles and we're looking at how that intuition, that voice has been quieted because we live in a society primarily dominated by logic. It is run, our corporations are run by logic. It's systems and logic, and you have to have these things in place, and you have to be able to explain yourself to your CEO and all of these things in your jobs, why you're doing something, why the system, why this way. And when we're looking at, I think the what has previously been the invisible mental load or struggle of mothers in particular is that sensing, feeling, emotional regulation, and intuitive piece that is in the feminine side, which again, men have also. But if we're, even as women, we're heavily reliant now on the masculine structure of logic and you do it this way, even in our parenting and our relationships, it's kind of what we were talking about before. There's a lot of expectation around I can manage this and I can logically explain why I'm parenting this way, why I'm saying no to this therapy, why I am choosing to homeschool, why I'm choosing to not homeschool. You have to have all this logic and reasoning to validate and prove your decisions. And intuition doesn't work like that. My key phrase is if you can explain your intuition, it's not your intuition. If you can tell people why you're doing
Interesting.
something,
Right.
you're in the logical brain now. So after the fact, after I have an intuitive hit, I can tell you, here's the reasons why we moved to Colorado, but I couldn't tell you that in intuition. I just knew we had to go. It was time to go. This was where we were going. People asked why, and I was like, because we just
I know there's
are.
some people who just ask too many questions, don't they?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
So
Well,
I would say that is being able to trust that intuition, being able to look at it with, and we do need both because I will come in with the intuition and say, here's what I'm picking up, here's what our family needs. And my husband will then come in with the structure and give it the masculine structure. It's like the banks to a river, right? Like, or the ocean. It's got its ebbs and flows and tides and all of those things. You don't try to contain that. But there are markers. I need something to crash against. I need a little bit to push against. I need structure to come in and implement and make that thing happen. So we need both at all times. Um, but I would say because we've, as a society, leaned so heavily in the masculine and the logic, I think we're going to see a lot
yeah.
of reclaiming for women in their motherhoods and in their journeys. And as we head into the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot more of people tapping into their intuition, not being able to explain the innovations and the things that they're doing, and really trusting that and using that outside of the way that they've been conditioned to think and act and speak and behave.
Interesting points. I like what you're saying. And we're running pretty close to about 4 minutes left. But before we close, have you found that trusting intuition, and this is something I think I know I need, a lot of people need, but trusting intuition can reduce overthinking, particularly in high pressure parenting or caregiving moments?
98%. Absolutely. So when you think of, again, that human brain, the conscious part of your thinking, you're running through all of the scenarios. You're logicking that situation to death. And that's often where the overwhelm comes in. It comes from two things. It comes from staying in that spiral of thinking and not taking action. So oftentimes, if you take action, even if you're not using intuition, if you take action, it will create clarity just because you did something. And then you get to see the response of how that made you feel, what it made you think, what was, what happened after you took that action. So that will create clarity. So take action. And then the second thing is that intuition, because it bypasses that conscious logical thinking brain, you're pulling information that's not needing to filter through all of your everything, belief systems and everything. Eventually, we do have to bring it back into that. But if I can say and make my decisions intuitively, like the idea to move to Colorado, I didn't try to logic that decision. I would have driven myself absolutely crazy because I was running through what schools and what this and my husband and his health issues and my children and their special needs and my stuff and family, and that's all the logical. And I would have just stayed in analysis paralysis, trying to find the best decision for all of that. But if I go, intuition said this test's really, really high. This is where we're supposed to go. I'm going to take action and then we'll figure out the rest when we get there. That reduced the overwhelm by 98%. Not all the way, but hugely, hugely impacted the decision and our ability to take action on that decision by getting out of that part of the brain.
That overthinking about it. Wow. Rachel, thank you so much. Feel like you're able to come in here today and share your heart, your wisdom, your experience, and your message about intuition. And I think emotional clarity, self-awareness. I feel that you're giving people permission to pause, to reflect, and even sometimes trust themselves again. Because in today's world, isn't that a powerful gift?
That is really the entire message is if you can learn how to trust yourself and listen to your inner voice, you can do exactly what you came here to do, which is what I want for everybody is to be who you are, who you created yourself to be before the world told you that you had to be in this box and think a certain way and behave a certain way. And the more of that we can break out of and really embrace our authentic self, the better the world's going to be because you came here to do something nobody else can do, and we really need you to do it.
Do what you do best.
Yeah,
Yes. We sincerely appreciate the work that you're doing to help people create healthier lives for themselves. And I see that as what we're doing is building stronger relationships. And I think, as you mentioned, more authentic leadership. So I do thank you for being a valued guest on the Achieving Unity Leadership System and the podcast and for helping us continue encouraging, inspiring, and including others, as I think we're all working toward achieving unity together with our intuitive nature. I think that is awesome. So, as we close today's conversation, one thing I think still remains clear: real change happens when people come together with purpose and when vision meets action. So thank you, Rachel, for helping us continue turning pain into purpose and disconnection into unity. Because as Rachel spoke to us today, if you want to go deeper with what she's talking about, connect with her. She has her official website, the Intuitive Edge podcast that she has, LinkedIn, she's on Instagram, Intuitive Edge Facebook page. She is out there for you to talk to her. And hope you took a picture of that slide earlier in the podcast with Rachel's QR code. If not, this full podcast will be available on YouTube at Mark Intrican before the close of business on Friday. So Saturday morning when you wake up, ready to listen to the video as you enjoy your morning beverage, with the coffee, tea, or whatever you enjoy in the mornings, please listen to this. Go out to her QR code and go look at her pages because as Achieving Unity continues to resonate with you, Hope that you'll also follow us. Reach out and connect. AchievingUnity.com, markintrican.com. Achieving unity, connecting with each other. As Rachel said earlier, with the children, with other people, that connection, that's so important. So, Rachel, do you have any quick, maybe a final statement or comment to make before we close?
I mean, just be yourself.
Be
As
yourself.
simple as it gets, but yeah, and we've got a lot of free programs and different things too. I know that we talked about some heady things today that we're just getting started, but I think that being yourself is the best way to change the entire world.
Being ourselves to change the entire world. One person, one step, one conversation, one listening at a time. I like that. So until next time, let us continue to transform complexity into execution, chaos into connection, and our purposes into the actions that we need. Let us continue achieving unity. Again, www.achievingunity.com. Call me 303-FOCUSED, 303-362-8733, because we can stay focused. Starting out with LID, listening and dialogue, WID, writing it down, BID, break it down, RID, review its dependencies, and GID, get it done. For better collaboration and communication as we achieve unity by harnessing that power, as I mentioned earlier, and as Rachel talked about today, encouraging, inspiring, and including others in building better businesses, better lives, better families, and a better world. This is Mark Intrican with Achieving Unity Leadership System reminding you that life is truly what we make it. Let us help everyone around us. Open that door if you see those situations. Feel seen. Help them feel seen, heard, and supported in everyday moments that truly matter and make life awesome together in unity. Thank you all. Thank you, Rachel. I sure appreciate you being here. What you had to say opens up a lot of doors for a lot of us. So thank you for your message, helping us understand that when leaders tell their story through intuition, they align purpose, people, and execution so that the results will follow. Being able to use that intuition going forward. So thanks again, Rachel, for helping make that alignment and
Thank
intuition
you.
real, practical, and achievable. And thank you for being here. However, we will get out there and contact you and connect with you. And I hope to see you all again next week with our next step in remembering unity is not a soft skill. It is truly a leadership discipline that we all need to take forward. Rachel, thank you again. So until next week, everyone, cheers.